Today I have my hands on the awesomeness that is the new signature for Jeff Loomis SL7 Jackson. It's a 7-string guitar, and let's do a breakdown of the features and see what makes it different. First up is, aside from a lot of the standard guitars, this is getting to be a newer feature that I'm starting to notice on 7s, but it has a 26.5 scale length. So it's a little bit extended, but not so much. I played it back and forth with my 25.5 regulars and my 6s, and you really don't notice it. So you get a little additional string tension and things, but without any real ergonomic cost on it. Now, as far as the composition of the body overall, the first thing I noticed is I was surprised when I found out what the body wood was. It's actually a basswood body. It is a neck-through guitar, but it's actually basswood with a sandblasted ash top, which that looks pretty cool. That's pretty interesting. I'm used to basswood guitars being really light, and the guitar certainly isn't heavy, but it feels more solid than I'm used to with basswood, whether that's part of having the sandblasted ash or if it's just the added kind of solidness of having a maple neck through. I don't know, but if you're used to real light basswood guitars or ones that maybe feel a little cheap when you pick them up, that's not quite the situation here. So starting from the back, this really is a shredder's guitar. It's set up for fast playability, not a lot of gimmicks, straight to the point. Back here we have a Floyd Rose 1500 series. Did some good whammying on this, stayed in tune pretty well. We have a really simple control layout here. Really like this. It's just a volume and your pickup selector. And the pickup selector, I also like in that it's backing away from the bridge a little bit where I normally wouldn't hit it. And even if you keep your fingers out, it's right about where you would want your hand over it, at least for myself. That keeping it simple and stripped down, just hit the pickup you want and then your volume, not, tones, things like that. If you're a shredder, most of the time you're not really touching that stuff. So I like having that stuff stripped out. And I tend to like a tone not being in the chain because every pot that you have does start to wear down the signal a little bit. So this is hot and direct. And speaking of which, you have his signature Seymour Duncan pickups in here. You can hear them in the demo. I found them to be surprisingly rich and having a really interesting character in the mids that you don't usually hear. I would call it kind of throaty, and that the extended highs are a little dialed off, which for me, especially if you're doing a lot of lead work or fast high gain things, I kind of like that a bit. Because that extended high is what adds that really hissing hash sound that can come through a lot of amps when you're trying to dial in more gain and you just can't get rid of that top end that comes through with a V30 and a 57, which is most of the time what you're set up with live. A smoother sound, rich, a lot of punch, and I would say girth without losing definition. The best thing I can say, but you be the judge listening to the demos. So on top of that, then we have the ebony board with the shark tooth inlays. And then the thing I think I really like about it is having a raised Jackson logo there. It's not just a decal, it's actually raised up on there, and having that be black chrome, or kind of actually full chrome kind of thing, that seems to kind of be reminiscent of the pickups. Everything's kind of black and then shades of gray. You've got kind of the black chrome on the pickups, black hardware, black and white going back and forth. So for a metal guitar, I've always leaned in that direction. A good body binding to define a sinister looking dark guitar seems to do it pretty well. And again, on the back, nice neck heel, solid upper access. You can see you've got a good point there coming in, dialed down towards the cutaway where you're going to reach up. And you also have an easy access battery compartment, which I'm amazed not everybody's doing anymore. As often as something can go wrong with something, being able to swap that out quickly and not have to take the whole back component off, that's a must-have for active pickups anymore. And basically just an extended version of the traditional Jackson headstock. This is just a little bit longer to accommodate that 7th tuner. It gives it a bit of that bird of prey kind of thing. But yeah, basically an expanded Soloist with a bit more of its own style and everything. One of the other things I found interesting is it's a compound radius. And that's one of the things I noticed immediately on picking up the guitar is it is a slim neck. It's not the slimmest I've ever played. I wouldn't put it in Ibanez Wizard territory, but it's definitely a very thin shape. And it feels very flat going all the way up the neck, almost even flatter here. So it goes from 12 to 16. So definitely, I think something that is really accommodating from switching to most of your rhythm playing and then going up to the top. But really, it does feel like a really flat fingerboard everywhere that you play it, and it's built around speed playing. There is no doubt about it. The fretwork, I checked this over as soon as I got it out of the box. No dead frets. Everything, you can land anywhere and get just a good, clean, clear note out of it. But not finding any real flaws on it. And yeah, no finish flaws. Where the neck hits the body and everything's clean. The binding's well masked off. And that's something else to notice here, and it's hard to see. At first, I didn't even notice it, but it has a neck spoke truss rod adjustment right above the neck pickup. It's almost kind of hidden in there. You don't notice it. Another option I really prefer. If you're someone who, especially on a shredder's guitar, is going to be going for low action a lot of the time, really making micro adjustments to make it just right, having to pull a truss rod cover off is really going to be miserable. Having that spoke adjustment right here so you can make quick changes on the fly, adjust to, maybe showing up at a cold gig, something like that. Really good. And it just, looks wise. Can you really see it being up here where it's going to kind of ruin this flow, and nice aesthetic value up there. So another option I was really glad to see is, again, this is a one-piece neck through maple, but there's graphite reinforcement in it. And I think that's almost a necessity. If you're going to have a slim neck like this, again, I don't know how easy it is to judge a profile through camera, but you can see how I get that little duck's beak kind of hand positioning, wrapping my hand around it. But having graphite reinforcement really makes a difference in being able to maintain a neck this slim and not having it twist or develop problems or fret out or that type of thing, because it's just so thin, it's just not going to hold shape. So really glad to see that the reinforcement is in there as well. But overall, I'd say the major points that stick out to me are it definitely has its own and interesting tone, plays definitely fast, really just built for speed. That's what it comes down to. And simple, to the point, but every option seems to do what its job is designed to do. Whammy works great, stays well in tune, and being right in the middle as far as weight and comfort. Not so heavy that it's a burden, not so light that it feels cheap, and that traditional Soloist body with a really nice rib cut in here that fits right there where you want it to. Really comfortable to sit with, classic Jackson design. I've played a few Soloists in my time, and it definitely feels like just that same vibe if you've ever picked one up, but just with a bit more Cadillac options coming out of it, and something that's built specifically with last details down to it for really going nuts. So I enjoyed going through this one. It surprised me, and the last part of the detail was that I'm not always a real big 7-string player. I respect them and I like them, but usually I'll switch over to a detuned with some heavier string 6-string to get most of the work done that I do. But this one, I was surprised. It's the first 7 that I've ever picked up that played like a 6. And if you're a person that's had a hard time making that transition, I know you know what I'm talking about. There's always something just a little different in how a 7 feels under your hands, the way it repositions, the way you hold the neck and everything. But I think it's a big part because of the flat radius, the slimmer neck, and the string spacing overall. I was kind of surprised when I picked it up. I went, this doesn't feel like I associate the feel of a 7. It doesn't have that bulk that I associate with it. For me, it's always been like a 6-string is, you know, a race car, and a 7-string a lot of times can feel a bit more like a souped up truck. This one feels like a race car, but with an added option to it. So it's hard to describe those kind of things, but definitely for me, it's a 7 that plays and feels like a 6, and it plays fast. So thanks to the team at Jackson for getting this one out to us. Really enjoyed playing this. I'm tempted to grab one myself. So what do you think? Are these options you're looking for? Does it seem like Jackson's kind of hit the mark here? Or do you wish there were some other options available on it that you've seen on other soloists or things out there that you kind of prefer on a guitar? Hit me up in the comments below as always. Let's gossip about it, and I'll see you down there.